says, equally impressive is the selflessness that she brings to her mentorship. For example, she has, without hesitation, provided me many hours of thoughtful advice on my...
A lot of fun for me. And I tried to have a little bit less information today and a little more time for sort of questions and conversation and things like that. So, and then I think we'll have a little bit of a kind of group photo at the end. And I think you'll get kind of official certificates. This is a little loud. Maybe can we turn down the mic a little? Thank you. It's loud, yeah? I'm having it. So you'll get official certificates. So particularly for the students or maybe junior faculty, it's nice for you to put on your CV, professional development opportunity. I'm not going to use it until we turn it down. It's too loud. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Better. So today, first of all, I actually wanted to thank all of you for being here and for your participation. I really had so much fun and enjoyment interacting with you. Your questions and comments were fabulous. And it makes it so much more fun and interesting for me when you're engaged in the material and asking questions and making comments. So thank you. Really appreciate you being here. It would have been really boring to do this without you. So I really appreciate you being here and being engaged. I also want to thank you. Thank you for all your help. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your support. And thank you for all your help and for the iced tea every day. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, yeah, lots of thank yous. I'm starting with that. And I just wanted to have a little reflection from yesterday. It feels like a long time ago now. I was very busy yesterday after class. Feels like it was a week ago, but it was just yesterday. I think we spent some time talking about communication and filled out that sort of communication survey. Talked some about, we started, I think, talking about some of the skills and competencies of mentors. And so any reflections from yesterday, any other insights about that communication
Maybe we can start getting ready.
Thoughts that you've had from
sit back down just so that we can make sure we finish on time.
Comments about anything over the last couple of days before we get started. Think about being a good mentor.
So I think there are a few people out of the room, so I'll just wait a minute more. But I wanted to focus some on communication and mentoring.
Writing down if you have a new idea.
You had brought up, Carol, I think the kind of mentorship part of the benefits is your own opportunity to improve your own communication skills, to pay attention to your communication skills and style. Because again, if we think about mentoring as a professional relationship, of course, and its success or failure is in part going to depend upon how effective you are in communicating.
Your insights, your new ideas,
and that's both. That's not just
some kind of action, whether it be for yourself,
but that's also
how
your
you're
listening,
change your own behavior,
which is even
or
harder
maybe what
to
are you
do
going
well
to try to do for the institution.
Speaking.
To try to
Speaking's
change
a lot
the
easier
climate or the culture around
for most of us, right, who teach
the climate or culture
or
around
support
for professional
we're
development.
very comfortable speaking and giving
Knowing
advice.
that what I share,
we have a
what
much
we've
harder
learned
time listening.
At my university
that's a skill
in the
to
US,
cultivate.
it's going to be quite different from how you
this
apply
little
to your own settings.
Tool,
so take some of the
which,
concepts and think about how do they fit in.
It's
semi-scientific.
Okay, I don't want to overemphasize this, but it's been used quite a lot in this kind of setting to just give you a little bit of insight into your own communication style.
in Beijing.
and just an
So
opportunity for us to reflect.
it's actually different at
all
different
of us on our
universities in the U.S.
communication
as well. It's
So
not
let me-
one big
let me walk you through
homogeneous group. Universities
and
develop
show
their own
you. I
culture.
decided,
We're
I
very
haven't done
different
this
from
in
Johns
several
Hopkins
years,
or Harvard
so I decided
culture.
to fill it out again this
We're actually
morning
quite different
for
from
me, so
Stanford,
I can
which
show
is
you what
only
mine looks
20
like
miles
also,
away.
just as a demonstration.
So,
Okay. You have
and I don't do
here
you
on the
have
first
time
page,
to complete this?
you have column
We now have paper
XZWY,
copies.
right?
So,
4 columns.
Yeah, okay, so they've already been
And
handed
15,
out. So
15
I'm kind of old-fashioned still. I kind of
rows,
like paper.
15 lines,
I like to hold it in my
1 through
hand.
15,
So you have the
and then
paper
4
copy,
columns going down.
That you can
So
take
if we
with
look
you.
at
I think it's
the first
helpful
line,
to
line
fill
1,
that out again. To
there's
remind
4
you
words across
what
here.
What I'd like you
And
to do.
you don't have to pay
but
any
not
attention.
Today. I don't think
The,
we'll have
the
time, but
bold
you
and the
can
not bold
take
is
it
just
with
to help you keep the lines separated. They have no meaning
Fill that
otherwise.
out and then see where
Okay,
you've got
so
areas
ignore the
for
bolding.
growth.
So if
What
you
are
read
the
across
areas
on
that
line
you're
1 from
lower on?
XZWY,
You're kind of more in the 1,
it says
2, or 3.
disputes the issue.
Hopefully that's not
unruffled.
all of them.
Do you know what unruffled means?
Maybe several of them.
Unruffled means you're
But
kind of not
identify
bothered.
2 or
You're
3
calm.
areas you'd like to work on.
Focused or
from the
sociable.
MCA, and then you can, that could
Okay,
be your
line
project
2,
for
we'll
the
take
year,
a chance,
to be thinking
flexible,
about how do you improve your
rational,
own skills
sympathetic.
as a mentor.
So as you go across line
Okay.
1, line 2, line 3, line 4,
I got a lovely email
you just
this
circle
morning
2
from
words
someone I've been mentoring
that you
since
think
he was
describe you.
a fellow,
Okay.
a research
Don't
fellow
think about it.
at UCSF.
Just answer whatever
He then,
comes into
he
your
then got a
mind
job
first.
at another
Read all 4
university. He went
words.
to University
So
of
in other words,
Texas,
you should be able to do this very
Southwestern
quickly.
in Dallas.
This
a
is
very
not,
good
and there's no
university,
right
medical
answer
center
or
there.
wrong answer.
Was hired to be a
You don't want to be
researcher there.
thinking about what
Then
would
they
my
decided,
friends
he and his
think or what
wife,
would
I
I
was
like
mentoring
to
them
be.
both. They
But
were
this
very
is what
unhappy
my
in Texas.
impulse, what my
Too
immediate
many
reaction
guns.
is. So you're going to
It's
go
just a
all the way
different culture
down
in
1 through
Texas than in
15
California.
and circle 2
So
words
they
as you
came
go
back,
across
that we recruited them
that
back
best
to
describe
UCSF.
you.
And I just got an
Okay?
email
And there's
from
no right or
him
wrong
this
answer.
morning
You don't want to
saying he was
pick
just
the answer
promoted
that
to
you
associate
think
professor.
is the
He
right
wanted to let
answer.
me
You
know
want to
the
pick
good
the one
news.
that comes into your mind
So,
first.
you had
Yes,
mentioned
question.
the gratification about being a mentor, the satisfaction. That made me feel
Everybody.
so good because I've known him since he's a fellow.
50,
So
you
this
go
has
all the way
been
down to
now
15 and see what I've done here.
7
So I circle
years.
2, circle 2,
7, 8 years
circle
of a
2, circle
relationship.
2.
Couple
Okay.
years as a
Yeah.
fellow.
Okay,
and then
I want to
6
make sure
years
any
as a
other
junior
questions, because
faculty
it's a
member,
little
an
confusing.
assistant professor,
So as you go down,
and then
you just
promoted
circle
in the
2.
research series.
2.
So he has an independent grant. He's published
Okay.
about 25
Just
papers.
2 across.
And
One
he's
from
doing
X,
great. And
or
and
one
he
from
also has a
Z,
baby,
or one from W, or
and
one from
life
Y.
is good.
But
And
you
it's
end
really
up with
nice to
2
hear from
circled.
him,
Yeah.
here.
Okay?
So complete that and keep it
When
with
you're
you.
done
I
with
hope
that,
that is
raise your
helpful
hand.
for you. So
And
today
this
I
should
wanted to
take you
focus on
1
this
minute,
last,
because I don't
think,
want you
really
thinking.
important
Take off your
topic
thinking
of
brain
alignment,
and put on your
of
automatic
goals
response
in
brain.
mentoring, goals and expectations. And as
Make
I've
quick
mentioned
choice.
a few times, I think
And
this is
are there
really
words
key
here that
to
don't
success.
make sense, that don't
So I wanted to
translate
share
well?
with you some thoughts about this.
And I'm sorry,
then
they
we have
translated it at the School
about
of
a
Medicine.
7
I
or
should have
8
gotten
minute
that copy.
video
for
that
you.
is
They
a
had a Thai
conversation between a
translation.
mentor and mentee. And we tested this morning. I think it will work.
Any
So we'll
words
see.
here that don't make sense?
So alignment is really,
Okay.
alignment
You're
is
all-
key.
Your English is
This
all
is
good.
probably
so.
a Photoshop photo. I don't know. But this is lack of alignment. This is not
Or you
good.
can look up the word.
So the mentor-mentee alignment helps mentees to find their career path. Again, it's kind of coming back to that career sweet spot, and I'm going to show you that again at the end of today as well.
When you're done, please raise
But
your
the
hand,
alignment
so I
makes
know who's
sure
done.
that we have the alignment of skills, values, and interests, right? And it includes skills, and you have the IDP.
Go fast. No thinking.
Maybe here. We'll look at that in a moment. But the UCSF IDP that you have actually starts off with an assessment of values and skills. So that's really important because you may want to
You're already on
be
it. Yeah,
a
so
researcher
yeah,
who
right.
looks at
Yeah.
large data sets and
then
analyzes them. But maybe you're not so very good with quantitative methods. You're probably not going to be successful in that kind of research. So part of that setting goals
this
is
morning,
also
just
being
so
very
you wanna
realistic about what
rectangle,
and also what are your
skinny
values.
rectangle, whatever. You just
So
connect
that's where
those with
that
straight
alignment
lines.
comes into play. And this tool that I keep referring to is this IDP, or Individual Development IDP. And this IDP just says, where is that mentee headed with their career, and how will they get there? That's the big picture. Where are you headed? How will you get there? And then the third issue is, and then how can I, as a mentor, help
Finished?
you get there? Help you set your goals and help you move on your
I know it's a
journey.
little harder, I'm sorry, in English. Some of
This
the words are
IDP, or
tough.
Individual Development Plan,
Finished. Okay, good. So you, good, so you
doesn't
added
just
up, it should
promote,
add
but
up
it
to
ensures
30,
alignment.
right?
And make sure that we
16,
have alignment. And as you know, I've mentioned many, many times,
30?
lack of alignment is what leads
12,
to
20,
what
30,
will
yep.
certainly
Okay.
lead to failure in
So-
the relationship.
Yeah,
Okay,
so you
and then
make,
there's
you
this
make, you know
concept
you've
of,
done it
right,
right
true
if the
north.
bottom four
We have
numbers
the-
add up
the-
to 30.
The geographic
that should
north,
add
and
up
then
to
the true
So now
north.
you can rip.
We have the magnetic north, right, and the true north. They're not the same, but we use the true north as a saying for where's your heart taking you? Where you really want to go with your life and your career? And so that IDP helps the mentee also really identify their true north. There's literature on an IDP. I just have one PowerPoint on that. But you know, we want to know, if we're going to use a tool, does it actually make a difference? And there has been some research in this area that mentees who use an IDP have higher satisfaction with their work, fewer
when you're-
conflicts with their advisors and mentors because they're on the same page. They're not like, oh, I thought you were working on this, and now you're telling me you're working on that. We know that because we're keeping track of it with this written tool. And more productivity, more publications, more grant and fellowship proposals. So often IDPs are used in a research context, but they can be used, and I encourage you to think about using them just in general in mentorship. It doesn't have to be for a research faculty. It could be for anybody, so that you have alignment of goals, expectations and goals. So very simply, an IDP is both a process and a product. Okay, a process and a product. So the process is really having that mentee think about where do they want to go with their
Great. You guys very similar.
different ones. It doesn't, you need to use a product that works for you, but it has to accomplish some specific goals. It's not a contract between the boss and the junior person. Okay, that's different. There may be a role for that, but that's not really an IDP. An IDP is used in the context of mentoring. So I know there's an IDP here from Mahidol University. It's not really what I think of when I think of an IDP. For me, what you have here is more of a kind of a contract for the year. It's what I sign, what I look at when I have my annual meeting with my faculty, and I say, this is what I expect of you this year. This is how you're getting paid. You're doing, a certain amount of clinic. You're doing a certain amount of teaching. You're doing a certain, you have this grant, this kind of thing. And that's when they get to ask me, well, I'd like to do more teaching, and we negotiate around that, and then we have an agreement for the year. Because I don't know, maybe for you also, my faculty, their contract is actually year to year, even though, they're very secure in their job, but we kind of renegotiate how they're going to spend their time every year. That's not really an IDP. That kind of serves, it's a very important process and document, but it serves a different purpose than an IDP, which is really between mentor and mentee and trying to lay out, where am I going in my career? How can I help you get there as your mentor? What are the expectations that we have for our mentoring relationship? That's in addition to this other document that I think you call an IDP here, that I would probably rename it and call it something else. But it's a start. It's a start. So, the IDP is what the mentee wants to pursue and how, along with what the mentor expects and when. Okay. And really what the mentee expects also of the mentor. This is a bidirectional relationship, remember? So the 4 steps of an IDP process is 1, assessment by the mentee, looking back and taking stock. What have I accomplished? And I need to assess my skills, values, and interests. That's sort of step 1. And that can happen more than one time because our interests change, right? As our careers evolve, we may get interested in other areas. Maybe we started working with one mentor because I was interested in mental health issues in primary care. And now I've gotten much more interested in sort of medical education research and scholarship. So I may need a different mentor for that. And my IDP is going to evolve. This isn't a document you fill out and put in the file. This is a document you keep on your desktop, and you keep updating it. And you use it when you meet with your mentor. So first assessment, and then career exploration. What are my career goals? Okay. What are my values? What are my skills? What skills do I need? Where do I want to go in my career? That big picture, and then we get more granular. So based on that, what are my goals? What will I accomplish in the next year? I might even say, what might I accomplish in the first quarter of the year? We really need to break these things down into the SMART goals that I talked about and think about what's important and not urgent so that you can schedule time to work on the important non-urgent things and not wait until they become urgent. Okay, because then we don't do a good job also, right? We just try to get it done rather than really get it done well. So, and to finish my training stage, to apply for a career development award, to submit 2 papers. So these are big goals. So each of these need to be broken down into smaller chunks. How are you going to submit 2 papers? Which papers? When? With whom? When are you going to get the abstract done? When are you going to you really need to be breaking these things down. And I'm going to talk about writing tomorrow. But I know for me, if you're busy, like all of you are, if you're really going to get writing done, you need to learn how to do it in chunks. I find an hour here, I find an hour there. I would love to find a full day, but it's really hard to find that time unless it's on the weekend. And I don't want to encourage you all to be working too much on the weekend. I know sometimes we do that, so that's reality. Okay. And then finally, implementation. How will I engage my mentors to help me accomplish my goals? And this is an iterative process, right? So you go back through this. This isn't one time and then you're done. This is a process that the mentee may circle through. Let's get a reassessment. Think again about what are my career goals. Have they shifted a little bit? Are they still the same? Etc. That's what makes careers fun, right? And this is why I didn't, I'm trained as a clinician. I could have taken a job in a big health system to see patients every day of the week. That was not ever my career goal. So in academics, both the exciting thing but the really hard thing is we have opportunities to get interested in other areas, to develop new skills, to apply for other positions. Yeah? There's more flexibility, which is really fun, but also really challenging. And then you've got to write it down. So IDP is not just a process, it's a product, it's a written document. It's the big picture and the plan. The big picture, where am I headed? Am I on the right track? Do I want to change tracks? Do I want to add a track? And then how will I continue to succeed? When I was early on faculty, I remember a senior faculty member said, you know, to be successful here, I have found that I have to, he said, reinvent myself about every 7 years or so. The reinvent, he didn't mean completely change, but he meant you have to look for new opportunities. And that was a little scary when I was quite junior, but now when I look back, I see that that's what I've done. That's what I've done. And I didn't really know what those opportunities would be. Part of it is just paying attention and sometimes taking some risks, saying yes to opportunities when you're not sure where they're going to take you. That's the role of a really great mentor, is helping support the mentee take some risk. A little bit of risk. Not too much. A little bit of risk at the appropriate time. So this is a video of, actually it's one of my mentees who took a mentor training course and then wanted to get, she's a gastroenterologist, hepatologist, very successful researcher at UCSF in liver disease. And she got very interested also in mentoring and decided she wanted to make this part of her career. So I invited her to co-teach with me the mentor training. She actually has gone to China with me a couple of times, to Beijing, to do some teaching there. So we made a series of videos, teaching videos as well. And this is one of the videos, and she's interviewing a GI doctor as well, Dr. Corley, Doug Corley, and with his mentee, Dr. Lee. And they're talking about how they work together using an IDP. So rather than me talking theory, this is like really how they used it in their relationship. And it's about 7 or 8 minutes, a little bit long, but I think it'll give you some better idea about really how to implement an IDP. And I think it should work, right? Okay, so let's give it a try. While you're listening, maybe just take some notes. So, you know, what are you noticing? What things are coming up for you that you're noticing as you're listening and watching the video? How are they using the IDP? How are they saying it's been helpful? What are some of the tips? I think Doug Corley is a fabulous mentor, so thoughtful and so smart. So some of the things he's saying are worth paying attention to as well. We can all learn from him. So let me try to run this. Whoops. Okay.
Hello, I'm Manjana Kadidi, Professor of Medicine in the Department of Medicine and the co-director of CTSI Comprehensive Mentoring Program.
That's as loud as it goes. Good? Can you hear? Okay.
I'm joined by Dr. Jeff Lee and Dr. Doug Corley, who've graciously agreed to attend this session and talk to us about both the relationship and development of an individual development plan. Dr. Lee?
Hi, my name is Dr. Jeff Lee. I'm an assistant professor of medicine here at UCSF and an attending gastroenterologist.
My name is Dr. Doug Corley. I'm a clinical professor of medicine at UCSF on a volunteer basis. I work also as a research scientist at the Kaiser Permanente Division of Research, and I'm a gastroenterologist at Kaiser Permanente in San Francisco.
Jeff, Doug, can you tell us a little bit about your mentoring relationship and how it got started?
Well, I first got to know Doug back in 2011 when I was interviewing for fellowship, and at the time I was looking for a research mentor that fit a lot of what I wanted for professional growth, and I sought out Doug as a mentor during that interview process, and luckily got into the fellowship program and continue that mentorship program to this very day.
So when I first met Jeff, he was, as he mentioned, was looking for a fellowship, and the clinical track and the research track within UCSF both provided different opportunities. So one of the questions was where he wanted to be able to go. So in some ways, the mentoring started almost at that point of whether or not he should come to this particular program and what type of work he was interested in being able to do.
Well, Dr. Lindstad spoke to us about the individual development plan and the process by which it can develop, and also the product. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about the process by which you and Doug developed an individual development plan?
In January of 2015, I believe Doug, we had a meeting, and Doug introduced me to how about converting something more verbal in terms of our mentoring relationship and our goals, and putting it in a more written, structured format. And at that time, that's when I got introduced to the individual development program, and that was also the time where I took some time to really reflect on kind of what goals that I wanted to achieve professionally, and also in terms of my career.
Can you tell us a little bit about that process as a mentor for you also?
Sure. So as Jeff was talking about, there really were two phases. I think the first phase is what we normally think of when we're mentoring, in terms of putting together some type of plan or some type of an idea of what you're going to be doing. And that really encompasses a few different things, kind of what you're doing, when you're doing it, and who you're doing it with. And for the more informal part of that, or the more verbal part, as Jeff was talking about, the first couple of years of our mentoring relationship were related to putting that together and carrying it out. And so that did involve some other written parts. Our research group uses a weekly tool to be able to do updates on what is happening every week with each person, what their goals are for the next week. And so we did incorporate that, Jeff. That is something that we have to do on an ongoing basis. And so there was a written component of it. Approximately a year ago, actually for this class, the more formal structured tools became familiar to me, and that was when I talked with Jeff about being able to use these and converting some of what we had been doing into this other process. And I actually have found it to be extremely valuable. Valuable in a couple of different ways. I mean, one is each of those three elements of what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and when you're doing it, putting to some type of a timetable. It puts those into very concrete and specific categories, and also divides them up into some other categories. I think one of the ways that Jeff and I had used it also was was on a personal level, because your job is not there only in isolation. It intersects with other parts of your life. You have to be able to figure out about how are things going to work with your business. Do you need to, are you planning on taking time off for some family or other event? How are those things going to be able to fit into the work and mentoring and research development side? And if you're comfortable with it, all of those things fit quite well into the individual development plan as well, at least in a general way. I think it's important to be able to have a method that you feel comfortable being able to bring these other elements into the plan with, because unless you really understand all parts of your life and have some element of planning and integration with those, I think it's hard for any of them to be able to be successful. So that was something that Jeff and I had talked about and put in as well. And then it also allows you, I was quite impressed with it in terms of being able to have some of the specific goals. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And oftentimes I think the planning happens on the level of the project, what you're doing, but not necessarily in terms of your career. And then what are the things that you need to do with your career? If you want to be in a position at a particular time, at a particular point, are there things you should be doing within your broader institution? Are there things you should be doing within the medical societies? Are there things you should be doing in terms of getting involved with maybe a small level of grant or something like that? So what grants look like on the other end. I mean, all of these things kind of have places where they go into the development plan that you may not necessarily think about until you're kind of prodded a little bit by a corporate structure.
I've been using this product or this tool throughout the years since its introduction from Doug. I use essentially everything of that individual development tool, both much my time is divided in terms of both clinical responsibilities, research responsibilities, teaching responsibilities, and administrative responsibilities. Reflecting on that and being honest with how much time is devoted into each of these particular categories, and it's been working extremely well.
Doug, do you have any formal timelines by which you review this individual development plan to ensure that Jeff is on track, and how do you track that?
I think there's two parts. I mean, the first is that we have regular meetings, and then we also have our project group meetings. So for parts of the plan, which are those related to the projects themselves, those come in ongoing, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly touch base time. Many of the parts of the individual development plan, however, are really outside of what you're normally doing. I think that's the beauty of the IDP, is that it's a written map, and it's kind of like the difference between giving someone verbal directions on how to get somewhere and actually having a written map where you can follow down and see what your landmarks are and where you're going. And one of the helpful things is that when you go back, you realize that there are things that were on that map that you kind of forgotten about, or that you based on, or alternatively, that you maybe remember differently than the way they were. And so when you think about, well, what were my goals for this particular project for time balance? And then you go back and look and say, well, this is what they were, and this is not what where I am right now. And then you continue the process of readjustment and realignment. And you can reassess at that point and say, well, I said I wanted to be here. Is that where I want to be, or has something changed? But on the other hand, you realize that, as Jeff was alluding to, that if you wanted to be a place and you're not there, and you really have that written goal, that goal was in writing, and it was clear to me what I wanted at that point in time. What has kept me from being able to reach that? And it provides then a basis for kind of troubleshooting.
So from a mentee's perspective, can you outline how helpful an IDP has been for you?
Yeah, I found the IEP extremely helpful. Once it's in writing, you feel more comfortable. This is, like Doug has mentioned, this is a roadmap. For me personally, I like to go to to-do list. And this is another way of having of a to-do list before a career planning, and can also relate to project-specific planning too.
Any final thoughts about the process of IDP development?
I think planning is good. I'm a firm believer in that what you plan tends to happen, and that what you don't plan may happen, but is much less likely to. I think it tends to be able to make you more efficient and also happier in the end, because you're able to see in a crystallized way what your goals are. And I think the last part about it is that, as Jeff was alluding to, it tells you to be able to think, and we often go through things day by day, month by month, without really thinking about what we're doing and where we're going. And this provides a way to be able to help to focus those thoughts so that you can get where you want to go, which is ultimately what this process is about.
How about you?
No, I agree with Doug. I think for me, it definitely was a painful initiation in terms of finishing both the long and short term, but at the very end, it was a very fulfilling process because I've used this tool to help map my career and to continue to think about what I want to achieve both professionally and in terms of my overall career.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So I hope you found that useful. I know it's a bit long, but I think there's a lot of wisdom. And were you able to hear it okay? And they spoke maybe a little quickly, but so what did you pick up? Every time I see this video, I have more thoughts about some of the wisdom there. So I jotted down some things, but what did you notice about things that either Doug Corley, the mentor, was saying, or what Jeff Lee, the mentee, was saying about their relationship, using the IDP to help them be more productive together? What are the value of that IDP? And again, it's the process and the product. So I think they were talking a lot about the process as well, right? What they, how it's changed how they meet, how Doug Corley keeps Jeff on track, how Jeff keeps himself on track. The process of reflection, right? Doug actually mentioned sort of thinking. You know, we don't usually spend a lot of time thinking about where we want to go with our career and our lives. And this kind of gives us the opportunity and forces us to do a little bit of reflection. But what did you all notice? Yeah? There must be other mic. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
A big part of the process is setting landmarks and using whether or not they were achieved to troubleshoot as to why they weren't achieved.
Yeah.
Which is something that we, I think, tend to overlook if you don't have a structured plan.
Yep.
From month to month, perhaps. So having the landmarks and determining whether or not you achieved them can help you to troubleshoot where things went wrong regularly, rather than thinking, oh, I've got to the end of the year, where have things gone wrong? You can troubleshoot throughout over the course of the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Nice observation. The landmarks. And sometimes what I heard as well with that, it makes you say, well, if I didn't achieve this, why? What were the barriers? And is it still my goal? Maybe you reassess and say, I thought I was going to get this done by this time. I haven't, and actually, I'm going to change that and reassess and maybe have a change. So, but if you don't have the landmarks, if you're not keeping track, right, then it becomes urgent and important at the end of the year. And you're like, oh my goodness, I had these goals and I've only gotten 50% of them done, and I completely forgot about these other things. Yeah. Thank you. And they're meeting very frequently, right? When they, in the intensive research relationship, they were having check-ins, weekly, every other week, a lot of times to check in. And then they had the broader picture, the bigger landmarks, like the quarterly landmarks. Other observations? I thought there's just so much wisdom coming from the mentor there. So what did you hear? What did you hear him say that was new or interesting or helpful for you? Yes, please.
At the end, that the mentee, Jeffrey say, is very important that the mentor inspire him and keep the continued thinking and the research and also the career development in the future. That's I think is very important. And I would like to ask about one question, because in the clinical job, they have a long-term relationship between the mentor and mentee. But actually, in real world, they have some doctor, they would like to change the field. So maybe they should honest to each other. And as a hospital administration, how to mapping the mentor and mentee and change the mentor as well? I don't know.
Yeah, so thank you. So I think and I think Doug, the mentor, sort of addressed that by saying it kind of keeping us honest with each other, both honest in terms of the goals and honest about the alignment. And there may be a time, you were asking about the clinical responsibilities also, and where that mentee, if I understand your question, may go off in a different direction, maybe change what they're working on. And if you don't have it written down, then you don't even notice maybe until they've really drifted apart. And this again is and so if that can happen, but then at least you can have this sort of open, honest conversation about it. Because it's written down, it sort of becomes less, it's not a surprise. It's like, oh, here's my IDP, but I've decided that I want to get interested now in, now Doug is not a hepatologist. Maybe Jeff gets more interested in liver disease and says, I really need to, maybe he can expand his mentoring team rather than change it. But so the point of the IDP in part is that you're constantly reassessing. It's a map, but it's some kind of a magic map because it's not like it's done. It's a map that that you can continually edit and say, I thought I was going to go to New York, but I think I want to go to Philadelphia instead. So I'm going to kind of change, and I'm going to get on the bus rather than drive or whatever. So there's I want to make sure that we emphasize there's flexibility in the IDP, and you write it down, and so you can see what the goals were, and if you're not accomplishing them, what are the barriers? What are the problems? Are you not working hard enough? Were they not realistic goals? Did you change your interests? Is it the wrong mentor for these goals? But at least allows you to then to take a step back and try to analyze why there's an issue. And the clinical work is always a challenge, trying to fit the clinical work in with the other career goals for clinicians like Dr. Lee, who's also a GI doctor. And they didn't talk about that whole part of his career development, which is quite different. But Doug is his career mentor and his research mentor, but not his boss. Because Doug is actually based at he has an appointment at UCSF, but his main job clinical job is somewhere else. And he works at a research institute in San Francisco. So they're working together, but he's not reporting to him. Yeah. So it could be that Jeff's boss says, I need you to do more of this clinic. And then he needs to talk to Doug, to his mentor, and say, can you talk to my boss? That can happen. What else did you all notice? One more, couple more. Yeah, Angel.
Well, I think I got two insights from the video. The first of all is like not only become a mentor and also a mentee, we can really organize this mentoring related relationship pretty structured on like how, when, and what, and we can have a timetable to keep everything on track. I think this is pretty like helpful. Like during this relationship, we are not like getting orderings. We can have a structured timeline. This is pretty helpful. And the second point is I feel like, I learned from like Corey, Dr. Corey, is we need to care of our mentee not only for the professional things and also the personal life. It's kind of, we should achieve a balance, and then this will be a long-lasting relationship. Yeah, it's quite inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for noticing that. He did bring that up, didn't he? That when you set these professional goals, you can't do that in isolation from your personal life. You can't pretend that you don't also have a personal life outside of your profession. And so he said two things. One is that he had to create the relationship with Jeff so that Jeff felt comfortable bringing that up and talking about that. Because it could be that the mentor never knows. And so then you can't bring that in and say, oh, you have this goal to write this very large grant this year that's going to take you many, many weeks to get done. I don't know why I'm getting feedback. And I know that your wife's pregnant and you're going to have a baby. So we maybe need to think about this professional goal, because I'm not sure you're going to have the time, because you're not going to be sleeping a lot in the next 4, 5, 6 months. So whatever it is. So yes, that integration of the personal and professional goals. And I think, what Doug says, how does it all fit together? Work and life, how does it all fit together? And he used that term integration, which I like. Not balance, because we never have balance when we're so busy in our professional lives. You don't say, I'm going to work 6 hours at work and 6 hours at home, and then I'm going to go to sleep. It doesn't work like that. I work 50 or 60 hours a week, and luckily I really like my job, but I work a lot. I'm never going to balance my professional life with my personal life in terms of hours, so I have to figure out how to integrate them in together. Yep. Thank you for noticing that. What else did you notice? One or two more comments, and then we'll take a break. You have another one? Yeah, go ahead. Other people need thinking time.
The ease at which both of them could openly talk in front of one another.
Yeah. So is that unusual for this context here in Thailand? Is that why that struck you, or could that happen here? No. Yeah. So could you see that conversation in Taiwan or in Thailand?
I share the experience from Taiwan.
Yeah.
In Taiwan, the one senior doctor, they have a 5 to 10 PGY and resident. But as a doctor, Douglas, he is so experienced for the mentor relationship.
Yeah.
But how can deal with this relationship 1 to 10?
Yeah. So that's a very good question and point. You can't. So you have to, so that's where you have to, when you're taking on a new mentee of this intensity, this kind of deep relationship, you can only have a few. You may have others where you're less engaged in their work.
Right.
And your career mentor, you're meeting with them maybe once a month or maybe only 2 or 3 times a year, and you're still helpful.
So for the IDP, they have a step, a process. For the PGY, they may be just a difference. They are explore the career, field, and my interest.
Yeah.
But for the resident, they have a lot of burden for the clinical take care.
They're busy,
patient.
right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And they also still explore the field.
Yeah, so I mean,
Right.
Doug and Jeff started working together when Jeff was a fellow. And as a fellow, he had a lot of clinical work also. So they've shifted from less ambitious about his research and to, as a fellow, where he maybe had many hours a week of clinical work as well as doing research, to a junior faculty. And when we hire junior faculty as researchers, generally we protect like 75% of their time to do research. That may be unique maybe in the US. So Jeff has a lot of time now for his scholarship. And he still relies on Doug because Doug is a much more experienced researcher. But there may be some others that Doug is a career mentor for, but isn't their main research mentor. You know, so he may have 2 or 3 others who see him as a career mentor. He checks in with the IDP, but he's not getting as deeply involved in their research. He's not checking in every week to see how the paper is going, or, do you know? So you may have different roles as a career mentor. For Jeff, Doug is both a career mentor and a research mentor, and that's a big responsibility. That requires a lot of intensity, and Doug is fabulous. He's superhuman, but he can't have more than 2 or 3 people like Jeff, or he would find no time for his own work. That's all he would do is mentor all day long. And he's also a very busy clinician and researcher himself. And a super nice guy, as you can tell by his manner, just a very gentle, sweet guy, which is helpful in being a good mentor. It's nice to be nice. So yeah, you're right. So, and that's part of the reflection. So if another Jeff's brother came to Doug and said, I hear you're a great mentor. Will you mentor me? Doug may have to say, you know, I'd love to, but I'm sorry I don't have the time. Maybe in another year when, you know, something's going to change, but I'd be happy to meet with you quarterly just to check in and kind of go over your IDP and help you kind of keep on track. But let me introduce you to my colleague who does research in the area you're interested in, who I think maybe will have the time to work with you more intensively. Maybe a junior colleague. And that junior person could be the main research mentor, but can be overseen by Doug to make sure that they're kind of staying on track, that kind of co-mentoring. So then it's kind of, mentoring the mentor, which is a nice model. I like that model as well. Because, of course, everybody would want Doug to be their mentor because he's so fantastic. And that can happen. That happens at my university also. The great mentors get a reputation that everybody knocks on their door, and they can't do it. They can't do 10 people. Yeah. And maybe in your setting, as the main professor, you're expected to be working with 10 people. So what you can't possibly have that kind of intensity with all of them. So you have to be able to say, I'm here for you, I'm here to support your career, but on a more regular basis, you're going to meet with associate professor so-and-so or assistant professor who has expertise in this area. They can help make sure your research is moving on. And, quarterly, we'll all meet together, but only quarterly, not every other week. I don't know I'd love to learn more and figure out how to integrate this sort of idea into your structure. I think it's possible, but we it has to be different from how Doug has done it. So let me share with you a couple of, unless are there other thoughts or comments or reflections, and I can share with you a few other things I noticed. Again, every time I listened to the video, I noticed other new things. Well, we've kind of mentioned this, Doug said something about comfort with the mentor so they can have this integration of work and life. Doug kind of made a difference between the project and the career, that it's kind of getting the project done, but also the IDP kind of compels you to take a step back and also think about the big picture. Not just, what are your specific goals to write this grant or write this paper, but also where are you going? What's the big map? Where are you headed? Not just where you're going to stop along the way. Being honest, it keeps everybody honest. We have that expression in English, maybe you have that, keep everybody on the same page. So the IDP literally keeps them on the same page, or keeps both mentor and mentee honest about what the goals are and the expectations. Sometimes, you meet with your mentee and it's like, that's too ambitious. You need to pull back on that. I'm glad you're so ambitious. You want to write 5 papers and 3 grants this year, but that's not possible. So let's take another look at this and set some more realistic goals. But that's why sometimes we don't get things done, right? We're not realistic about what we can really get done with the time we have. Continual process of readjustment and realignment. So again, emphasizing this is not a document that you fill out and you put in your file cabinet or in your folder and then you forget about and you look at it again in a year. You need to kind of keep looking at it and go, oh my goodness, I was supposed to get this done by this date, and that's tomorrow. I have to reset that goal. That was not realistic, or, why, or did I not get that done because actually it's not relevant for me? So, yeah. So why don't we take a break? We can take maybe a short break, I think. And then when we come back, push escape. Anyway, when we come back, I'll have just a few kind of vignettes for us to discuss. And for that, I'll need your participation. So there'll just a couple of sort of cases or mentoring vignettes that don't have any right or wrong answer. They're just to stimulate our conversation, see if we can integrate in some of the concepts we've been talking about for the last 3.5 days now into how do we think about these vignettes in a different way than we might have if we started talking about them on Friday before we had any of the material presented. Okay? And then I want to take the last 10 minutes or so to talk about kind of your own mentoring, your own well-being. And just a few words on self-compassion as mentors, as people really, but as mentors. Because if we want to take care of other people, which is what mentoring is, you need to take care of yourself. Yeah, give yourself a hug. Yeah, exactly. So I have just a few thoughts about that, and I'm sure you do as well. So please take a break, get a drink, take a stretch, and we'll come back in maybe 10 minutes.